Hey everyone, welcome to House of Champions. I am Michael Lahoud, your host. I know I'm not Ian Paul Joy, but I am one step better. Michael Lahoud here with you alongside my good friends, Nigel reo-coker. Beautiful background. Nigel, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Daddy daycare, doing what I have to do on the cruise ship, taking care of the kids, but still watching the football. Great to be back on.
Yeah. And then we have Charlotte FC's play-by-play extraordinaire, Eric Krakauer. Eric, how's it been?
Good, not as well as Nigel. How do we get that background?
Brilliant. I'm thinking the same thing. I need to redo my background. Of course, Luis Lucho Garcia. Lucho, we had you on yesterday. How you doing?
Listen, Mike, just trying to keep the drama on. I mean, every single day we have to come here and talk about one game that has been totally dramatic. And once again, we have one. So, yeah, let's go for it.
And those of you listening, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. House of Champions, we're giving you 2 shows a day, really. And in the knockout round, the schedule will change. More info on that, as well as leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Why? Because we're worth it. Going on into the matches, the group stages are done. Match day 3 in the books. And drum roll, please, our producer, Des Norris. Let's look at the matchup. Guys, I'm coming to you, Nigel, first. Like, take me through this. What do you think when you see this graphic and you see this bracket?
I, if I told you that predicted any of this, I'll be absolutely lying to you. And I think there's no one on this panel who would have predicted some of these teams make it through out of their groups. I think it's something that we touched on before the start of this World Cup. This is a World Cup that's going to be very unpredictable, and it's turned out to be very unpredictable. And it's great to watch. It's great for football. I think it's great, and I think more so for me, I love the likes of seeing Japan and South Korea get through, especially close to that region. And I've always been a big fan of wanting someone else, someone new, a new nation to win the World Cup, to keep the beauty and the magic of football. And as we just watched today, I'm sure we're going to get into later, Brazil losing to Cameroon from out of nowhere, which is going to make Lucho even more nervous for that Spain and Morocco game. It's great to watch.
It's fantastic to watch. Dad, I'm enjoying so much this World Cup. This World Cup. That's the words that I heard this afternoon. My kid. This is something very special. You know why? Because they say that now kids they don't enjoy that much football, that they don't pay attention anymore, that we have to change a little bit football. This has been a fantastic World Cup so far. A lot of teams that we were not expecting today. Once again, South Korea making a massive impression, getting the result and going through. And that's something that we were not expecting. Spain started very well. Of course, I got my eye on Spain, Morocco for this on this bracket. I'm really happy to see that we went through, but definitely a little bit of concern because we showed a good team and strength in the first game, a lot of rhythm, a lot of intensity. But in the last couple of games, I've seen the team, yes, with a little bit of doubts. And when you got a doubt in a team very young, you know that you can be in danger. And Morocco is not an easy cake. It's not a team that is going to allow you. You know that it's very complicated to score goals against them. Very well organized, very disciplined. And yeah, I got concerned. So yeah, looking forward what is coming forward because definitely we got cracking games coming.
The one thing that stands out to me is how the quality difference between the best teams in the world and those other teams has really become smaller. The chance of having upsets is becoming more common. I don't remember a group stage like this ever. And so when you look at those round of 16 fixtures, you know that there are going to be a few upsets. Being Portuguese, once we get done with Switzerland, I'm hoping that we face Morocco rather than Spain, although an Iberian derby of sorts would be very entertaining. I also think it's kind of interesting to see how some teams lucked out in finishing second. I think Spain being in the bottom of the bracket, having finished second, benefits. So although I don't believe the whole narrative that was put forth that they weren't trying to win that game because they clearly were. So I just think that this is going to be rock and roll until the very end.
One game that I don't think anyone mentioned, looking at the top of the bracket, I'll have my eyes on the USMNT against the Dutch. Why? Because all you haters, you player hater, the guy in the hat, I'm looking at you, Mr. reo-coker, in particular. You're on vacation. You're still a part of this team, and you hated on my USMNT, and they're proving you wrong. They're going to do it one more time. Don't know why I'm whispering. I'm just that hype. Going into some of our predictions, one thing that you just came to us before we even go to predictions into this, Nigel, you brought up an interesting stat about Brazil losing this game.
Yeah, Brazil, obviously, we would have thought that there will be the one team to win all 3 group stage games. And apparently this is the first time it's happened again since 1994, I believe. It was the last time that this happened, that no team in the group stages won every single match at group stage level. So that just shows, and it just shows how competitive this World Cup is and how the gaps are closing. And I think watching that Brazil game today, for me, I love the fact that Cameroon got the job done. I don't know what the guys think, but for me, Cameroon getting that job done is really great for football, because I do look at Brazil's squad, not the starting 11, but you look at the second team, maybe the third team, they are more than capable to win a lot of games at international level. And I think Cameroon getting that job done is great for football, just to show that if you get the right manager, the right players with the right attitude, desire, and commitment, as we always say, those same certain words, easy said, hard to do in a team dynamic. But when you get that, you can achieve great stuff. And I think when I look at one of the teams that make it into the next round, who's been one of the best at it, for me, in my opinion, is Australia. The way Australia play and apply themselves, when you talk about togetherness, teamwork, commitment, and being able to understand the game of football, yes, you can defend for a long period of time against so-called superior opposition who are better at keeping the ball than you and technically better gifted than you. But when you get that one chance, and you take that one chance and you're clinical, and you still apply yourself defensively for 90 plus minutes, you can achieve great things. And I think it's something you just have to admire. It might not be your style of football, but you have to admire, because to be able to play like that comes with a great deal of coaching and detail as well.
Yeah, Eric, what are your thoughts on seeing the likes of a Cameroon getting this massive result? I mean, Brazil, though they make changes, I think it was 9 changes, the most they've ever made at a FIFA World Cup. I mean, that's a lot, completely different team. But to be an African nation like Cameroon, going into that last match and get a result, what did you see from them that you liked?
Well, I think Cameroon played well throughout the tournament, and they were a little bit unlucky at times. You know, in Abubakar, you have, for me, somebody who is right on the cusp of being a world-class striker. He was unbelievable at FC Porto, did really well at Besiktas as well. And you saw the way he took that goal. He's multifaceted as well. It's great for African football to see African teams do well. You know, everybody talks about CONMEBOL being the most difficult qualification process for the World Cup. I would argue that CAF is just as difficult, because not only do you have to top your group, but then you have to go into a playoff once again. Just think about Senegal, beating Egypt to get to this point. And then things have to sort of go your way when you get into the group stage. And I think the differences between teams sometimes have been one very good play or just a little bit of luck. Just think about Japan with the ball not actually crossing the line according to technology. I do want to focus on Brazil really quickly. One of the things that was very apparent to me after the first game is that Brazil's predictability in terms of their offensive movement is greater without Neymar in pockets of space, because he's the kind of guy who has a little bit of magic, who can change the game any which way. And what we saw already in the second game was that Brazil was relying a lot on the wide players making the difference. Rafinha on the right and Vinicius on the left. And down the middle, they were very predictable. So it allowed Switzerland to really sit deep in a narrow block. So I think that even though Brazil still is one of my favorites, I do see them having some problems breaking down low blocks without Neymar. But having said that, I mean, this is just another great story, not having teams win out, showing that there's a lot of quality across the globe. And it will be watered down in the next World Cup. That's the point that needs to be made.
Yeah, totally. It's getting closer and closer. Every single team is very even to the other one. And the moment that you are a little bit disciplined and you are organized and you bring that intensity on a high standard, you know that you have a chance. You guys are mentioning about the 9 changes from Brazil, but have a look: Gabriel Jesus, Martinelli, Rodrigo, Anthony, Fabinho, Fred. All of those are in the starting of their own teams in the domestic leagues that they play. top higher level, Real Madrid, and Manchester United, Manchester City, all top players. And today they couldn't make it. I think that a massive credit to Roger Son, the coach of Cameroon, that did an amazing job, because the team looked focused, never gave many space to the strikers of this Brazil team. You know that Anthony, he was impressed in the first half. That he's going to drop the shoulder every single time. That Gabriel Jesus has been magnificent during the whole season, and he's very dangerous. Wants to show to his coach that he wants to be in the 11 started from the next coming games for Brazil. So at the end, you have to give credit to Cameroon that today, once again, they cope with every expectation from this Brazilian side. And at the end, they got the job done. And fantastic goal. If you see that cross arriving from Celso goal line between the two center backs with that fantastic header, it's today could have hold his shirt for a few more minutes and swap it later on. That meant that he was sent off. But definitely, I enjoy very much watching Cameroon, even though that they were not going through. I think it was a massive result for them and for the future.
Nigel, you have a question?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say to the guys then, you're right in what you're saying, because I see the same thing where the gap between top teams and other nations is getting a lot smaller. Do you think that's a problem in world football, where these players now, yes, they're modern athletes, but they're being coached so much in a robotic way that there's not enough freedom given to them to be individuals? And that's what Eric said, which made a great point, and he's right. Neymar plays with a greater freedom of individuality. And as much as we see so many talented players, they're going to be easy and predictable to play against, because our coaches now not encouraging individuality in some of these teams. Like, I know obviously Eric can speak for Portugal, Lucho can speak for the Spanish sides. Do you think that that's a problem? I personally think it's a problem as well in England, where these kids are being coached too much and there's not enough individuality or personality being allowed to come through.
Can I just say this? I think there's certainly an argument to be made, or a discussion to be had, about whether certain players are having their creativity coached out of them. But I actually think that the problem here is slightly different. You don't have a lot of time to prepare these national teams. So the one area that you're really going to reinforce is the defensive block, right? Organizing the defenders. And then, given that teams don't have that much time to go through the attacking processes, you rely a little bit more on that individual ability, a player who has a little bit more flair to tip the balances. Neymar, in this case, in this discussion, is just one of those otherworldly players. You can argue that right now, with Messi and Mbappe, best three players in the world. So I think in this instance, for me, and unlike you, I was not a professional player, I think that's really the difference, is being able to have a player who has a moment of magic to unlock what is a very well-regimented defensive line.
Yeah, definitely. But where do you get that kind of players? Because they are not anymore there. Before, 20 years back, every single team had 2, 3, 4 players who can be unpredictable. For me, the most important is that there is no more street. We don't have the players who play on the street, who have that ability to adapt to the sideways, to the cars they are in front, to playing in front of against kids that they are older than you. You get that kind of abilities when you are younger, when you play on the streets. Right now, you got teams and you got players like, and I can talk in the same way like my kids. They go on a fantastic, perfect service. They play. They have the perfect bound, the perfect ball, the perfect shoes. They got everything set. So at the end, they are all predictable. They are all the same. The faster is the one is going to ride the first. The one who shoot harder is going to be the one who get the free kicks. But at the end, no one gets something different. No one gets things out of the box. And that's why normally Brazilian, Argentinian, they bring something different. You can see Gabriel Jesus, not long ago, he was on the street playing with the mates. And you can see when he's on the field, there's something that is going to happen. A turn, a shot, a run. Correa from Atletico de Madrid, the Argentinian player, exactly the same. Those are the players who normally, they break those lines. They break those teams when they are very tight at the back. We don't have anymore. And now it's all about physical, tactical approach, nothing else. And of course, they is getting even every single game.
That's a big problem that the U.S. men's national team has had over the years. So many players, and Nigel, you've touched on this, a lot of suburban kids playing in structured environments, playing structured soccer. But as you said, Lucho, the creativity comes from those players who have that extra spark that really learn the jogo bonito, as they say in Brazil, how to express themselves in the final third and in big games as if their lives depended on it. Well, a team whose lives depended on it, we'll touch on the next match in this group, Serbia, losing to Switzerland. Serbia 2, Switzerland 3. Lucho, I'm coming to you first because we had done Sportsline yesterday, and looking at this Swiss team, we both looked at each other and said, man, it's so hard to root against them. We both went with Serbia. How did this game unfold, and why did Switzerland end up getting the result?
I think that because they were not the Switzerland that we were expecting. We were expecting a Switzerland tight at the back, very organized, just keeping all compact, and let's see if we can send the ball to Mbolo up front. He can grab it and bring the team forward. But we've seen a very, very good Switzerland. I mean, they were pressing higher on the field, trying to not allow Serbia to build up from the back, knowing that if they allow to Tadic to grab the ball, Kosti to grab the ball, Petrovic up front to grab the ball, those are very important players. If you are on them, they are not going to have chances. And we've seen that in the first half, those players were involved. I think Tadic has made the best game of the season so far, because in the first one and second game, he was not involved as much. Today, he was a key player for Serbia, but it wasn't enough. I mean, we are talking about players who can make the difference. Have a look at Vargas. You know that when he's on the ball, something can happen. It's quick, it's fast, the movements, and that goal that he put to Fleury in the second half with that back heel, that's just beautiful. It was fantastic build-up for that goal with Shaqiri putting and chipping the ball over the head. I think that that's the difference on the Switzerland. That for me, I changed my view of them today, because they show me that they cannot only defend well, they cannot only be very aggressive, they can score goal, they can do good football. And today was a fantastic game from both sides, but at the end, Switzerland was more in the last grabbing the end product. It was more accurate.
One player who was massive for them in the end product, Shaqiri, MLS player. Eric, you've gotten to cover him. Shaqiri, 1 goal, 1 assist in this group stages. Take me through, what have you seen in his play, not just in Major League Soccer, but overall with the Swiss national team, that he just tends to deliver for them when it comes to this this type of tournament?
Well, it comes down to structure, right? Shaqiri has always been, even though he looks like a box, he's always been the player who plays outside of the box for Switzerland. And I think that's an area that he always tries to take up, right? The ability to create an imbalance with his movements and with his quick thinking. I do want to touch on something that Lucho said that I think is actually really important. We think of Switzerland as a defensive team that likes to play in transition, wait for the opponents to make mistakes. It was interesting to see them try to force the mistakes out of Serbia, and Serbia actually took advantage of that. And there was a bit of counter-pressing from Serbia. In fact, their first 2 goals come from Switzerland's mistakes in possession. And because they're pushed up, there are gaps that can be exploited. Now, I think Akanji is badly beaten for Mitrovic's fantastic header. He doesn't read the movement quickly enough. But what was interesting to me about Serbia afterwards is, even though we saw them be very, very tight defensively against Brazil, it was because that was the game plan all along. Once they took the lead in this game, they couldn't find the discipline that they had against Brazil. And had they been able to do so, I think they would have been able to grind out a result here. But they continued to be open, and that let Switzerland's creative players make the difference. So from a tactical point of view, I found this to be one of the most interesting games of the World Cup.
Oh, NRC, you got
for
anything?
me, Mike, all I need to add to that, I need to add to that is the fact of, you got to give credit to the management. I think for me, Switzerland came, they were aggressive. We all didn't expect them to be aggressive, and they got their reward. They got their rewards for being aggressive. They didn't just sit back and be this tight, defensive-minded team we expected. They went out, they got after Serbia, they made it uncomfortable, and they got the rewards. And it's crazy because when you look back at this World Cup with some of the results we've seen, so many teams were capable with the players and personnel that they had on their starting 11 to have the same approach and mentality, and they stayed away from it. And when they did, the results didn't go their way. So again, it takes a great manager and brave players able to do that. And also, you've got to read the opposition that you're playing against and what's at stake. But I give credit for Switzerland. They surprised us all, and it worked out very well for them.
But a player that I think doesn't get enough credit, and I loved everything that each of you have said, a player that doesn't get enough credit when you look at this Swiss team going into this Liga season, Breel Embolo, this guy, he is just a handful, and credit to him, his movement in the box, his quality to finish. I mean, both his goals coming in this group stages were kind of similar. Service from the right, and then just moving away, evading his defender and getting that tap in. He will be a big focal point for them in the knockout round. For the Serbian point of view, Lucho, you'd been high on this team. Where did it all go wrong for Serbia? It surely wasn't in the offensive end, was it?
No, it wasn't. At the end, it's about the mistake that they make. And in the moment that the Serbian teams start going forward, start committing players, they start making mistakes at the back. A lot of spaces in between the lines, and a lot, to be honest, maladjustments at the back, no communication. And Bolo is right free in the second post, no one near around. In the second goal, it's exactly the same. That cross that comes through the area, no one is near, no one is getting closer, no close-up. And at the end, you pay those mistakes. It's true that Embolo is very difficult to mark because when he's on the ball, it's massive, so you cannot even see the ball. And I think that something that is very important that you just mentioned is every single time that he's on the ball makes two things: worry the other people, worry the team, the opponent, and also giving the chance to your team to breathe. Because in the moment that he's got the ball and he's keeping it, the defense of Switzerland was moving forward, trying to allow them to rest a little bit, to close up, and then have the chance of bringing players forward. Serbia, I don't know. To be honest, it's just about the mistakes that they made at the back, because definitely up front, they made chances today. They scored the goal. They were ahead. So when you are ahead and you concede 2 goals very quick, that means that you haven't done your job at the back.
Lucho, I'm coming from the shadows. I'm just going to say it. Said it at the start, Lucho. Serbia, great team on paper, fantastic talented players. But will they gel as a team? Nah, they're kind of shown that. They're not really gelling as a team. And it doesn't help with some of the so-called rumors that came out with certain Vlahovic as well. I don't care what anyone says. That does not help the situation. But talented individually, but not a team. I just don't see a well-gelled, well-drilled team. When you look at some of these other teams in this competition, you look at Switzerland, like I said, I use Australia as a great example. Japan, I love to use as well. I love what I'm seeing from those teams. Well drilled, well organized. I said it, and Michael knows it as well. Serbia, great individually, but they will not be a good team. And as you said, Mike, Embolo sends his birth nation home, sadly, while representing Switzerland.
That's a big point, Nige. He didn't
Mike,
celebrate in that first win against Cameroon. Go on.
He didn't, Mike. When's USA going on?
Well, you'll still be on your holiday, and when you come back, maybe they'll still be in the World
I'll
Cup,
be back.
I hope.
I'll be. They're gonna get a Dutch class, mate. Don't worry about that.
Well, speaking of class, we're gonna go and make classy predictions. Knockout round is here. All the group stage matches are done. Looking at these two groups, you have Brazil number 1 in that group, Switzerland number 2. Brazil will take on South Korea. So the Swiss are second, going up against Portugal. Eric, looking at that Portugal-Switzerland game, what's your prediction? How are you feeling about that? Just quick comment.
I'm feeling pretty good. Look, they have a history of playing each other. They were actually in the same qualification group for the last World Cup, and Portugal just managed to pip Switzerland to top spot with a 2-0 win in the very last game. I think we're going to start seeing in that game Switzerland revert to the defensive block or defensive team that they have been throughout this tournament, and we know them as. They're going to allow Portugal to have a lot of possession. And one of the things that Portugal has shown that they have problems in this World Cup with is penetration. All the players, no matter who you put in there, and that includes Rafael Leão, who's a guy who can stretch the field, they like the ball at their feet. They're not players who stretch the field without the ball at their feet. The one guy that they had who did that was Diogo Jota of Liverpool, and he's injured. So my question for Portugal is, how are you going to get through that defensive block? And another area that I see as a little bit of an Achilles for the Portuguese is defending in transition. Sometimes it's defending in extremis. So, a last-ditch tackle from one of the players, and that's where Switzerland can take an advantage of a team. I think Portugal will win that game, but it's going to be very close.
For me, Portugal and Switzerland, if Switzerland can manage to play the same way that they play today, I think the Portugal are going to be in trouble, definitely. I know that they have a lot of quality. I know that they can score a goal in every single moment. But Switzerland proved today that they can manage every single aspect of the game. They can defend well. They can be, Shaka today has been fantastic. He's been a pillar there in the middle. So if they can manage to have that balance in between defense and attack, I think the Portugal can be in trouble. I cannot see Portugal winning if this Switzerland team plays the same way like today.
I'm in agreement with both of you. Nigel, coming to you. Quick comment on the other match between these two groups. What are you favoring? Brazil, a lot made about them. Will Neymar be back? Lots of question marks, but they're going up against a Korea team that, they're riding the highs of highs.
Yeah, Korea done fantastically well, and rightly so. Tremendous achievement. And we've spoken before this World Cup started how they produce so many talented players, athletically, technically gifted, and great football intelligence. I still feel this Brazil team, the starting 11, even without a Neymar, when it's something with backs against the wall, and now it's knockout stages, it's a different mentality. We're going to see a complete different Brazil against South Korea, and I think that they're going to get the job done. I still feel quality aspects, team dynamic, the way the team plays, how they're drilled from the back four to that midfield, whoever starts in there, they've got players that are more than capable. And depending on how the game goes, Brazil have more options and weapons to come and change the dynamic of a game in an instant. And I just want to peg back on Portugal. And I'm going for the upset. I just want to say I'm going for the upset with Switzerland winning against Portugal, Eric. You make a great point. I just want to add to that. Yes, the Portuguese players all love it to feed because they're all lazy. They don't want to run in behind. Rafael Leao is the one player that can be the difference, Eric, but he's being used wrong in this Portuguese setup. He needs to be used in a different manner. That's it.
Okay, well, you guys have stated your cases. We're going to ask for the score, but we'll save that for later in the show. We're going to go to a quick break. Thanks, everyone, for being patient. This is House of Champions coming at you live.
Don't stop watching. Leo Messi, the man, the myth, the legend, the GOAT. Utterly explosive. The UEFA Champions League. Stream PSG matches live February on Paramount+.
Welcome back to House of Champions. The soccer world's eyes are focused on Qatar for the biggest event on the global stage. Stay up to date with every story, every heart-pounding moment with the Golasso Starting 11 newsletter from CBS Sports. It's your ultimate guide to the beautiful game, taking you beyond the pitch and around the globe with expert analysis from the likes of Nigel reo-coker, Luis Garcia, and Eric Krakauer, as well as our entire team on everything you need to know in the world of soccer. Sign up today for free at cbssports.com/Golasso. Once again, it's the Golasso Starting 11 newsletter. You can sign up for free at cbssports.com/Golasso. Welcome back. We are going to touch on, we've just moved from the matches that just finished up. We're going to touch on the earlier matches, Group H. H for what the hell did we just experience? And for those of you family people at home, yes, I said the H word because this group, these games, it was just pure madness. Lucho, coming to you first. That Ghana-Uruguay game, so much emotion, so much intensity, and it just defied all odds. What did you see in that one?
No, it was fantastic to see both teams just going for it. Only one thing missing. I think Uruguay just went too short. In the moment that they were up front and they thought this is all done, we've been talking in this podcast about not playing. Don't speculate with the results of the other games. Just go for what you need. And after, if you get shot, at least you have gave 100%. And today we've seen another proof that you have to give everything until the last minute. Uruguay was all done. I think they thought, okay, we just scored 2 goals. We are all good. So we are going to go through. Even though that they knew that with 1 goal in the other game, they could change the fate of their future. So at the end, you need to go for it. Uruguay did the job, but not enough. Ghana, I was surprised that in the last 15 minutes, they were just all done. They couldn't more. I've seen Kudu. They was impressive once I went. This kid is going to be magnificent. He couldn't even move. He couldn't even walk. In one of the counterattacks in the minute 19th, he had to ask for the change because he couldn't move after an amazing job during the whole 90 minutes. So at the end, I was expecting a little bit more from Darwin Núñez. I was expecting a little bit more from Luis Suarez, even though that he was involved in the 2 goals. But this Uruguayan team had enough to get that result and go through, had enough to score another goal. I was expecting a lot more from Ghana. That today really disappointed me a little bit because the intensity was there, the rhythm was there, but at the end product wasn't there. So good result for Korea because Uruguay needed one more and they didn't get it.
Eric, looking at this game, this is a group that Portugal's in, and we'll touch on Portugal later. But for Uruguay, this has to be an absolute disaster. First time for them, I think, in the last 5 World Cups, not since 2002, that they failed to qualify from the group stages. How does this happen if you're a team like Uruguay?
Well, let me just start by saying something that's going to sound counterintuitive. I thought that Uruguay was going to be the dark horse in this competition, and I had a feeling that they could upset Brazil if they finished second in this group, because I think in terms of matchups, they have the sort of qualities that could make life very difficult for the Brazilians. But having said that, I think that you have to lay the blame at the feet of Diego Alonso, the coach. We know that Uruguay traditionally has always been a 4-4-2 defensively minded team. But this is a bit of a golden generation with a lot of attacking talent. And I think the mistakes were made in the first 2 games where he went a little bit too defensive against Portugal in a 4-3-3 with 3 center midfielders who are not creative. These guys are workers. Yes, you have somebody like Valverde who can stretch the game. He can shoot from distance. He's got a very good passing, but he's not a guy who's going to take advantage of tight spaces. So I think that Uruguay's downfall was that they were too conservative. They kept Georgian de Arrascaeta on the bench until this game, and look at the difference that he made. Palestri wasn't very good in the first game, but had an impact off the bench against Portugal, so you understand the fact that he started. So at the end, they just had to do, and I think this is the point that Lucho made, they had to do too much in this game in order to overcome the mistakes of the previous 2 games. Although I will say this, my asterisk of this game is that I think Cavani should have gotten a penalty. He was tripped inadvertently when he ran into the box on the left side. I think a lot of people were focusing on his upper body, but if you look at the bottom, the Ghanaian defender, I forget exactly who it was, tripped him inadvertently.
Yeah,
I know it was
right
checked, but for me, it was a penalty. So I think they will feel a little bit hard done, but at the end of the day, look nowhere else other than Diego Alonso.
Nige?
Jesus Christ, Mike. Eric's just taking all my talking points. I can't even say anything now. I was going to bring up everything about that. I was just going to ask Eric and Lucho a few questions. How much of a massive underachievement is this for Uruguay? Because I had them as well as a big dark horse. And personally, for me, I think Valverde, for me, has the right to be put in the category as one of the best midfielders in world football right now. And another player who I liked as well, Eric mentioned, is Arrascaeta. I've had the pleasure of watching him play for Flamengo. And he is an absolute sensation. With the talent that they have, how much of a failure is this for Uruguay? And do you also think that Darwin Núñez is still struggling from his move from Benfica to Liverpool, and that might not have been the right move for him?
I'll tee that up for you first, Lucho.
No, yeah, definitely. Darwin is still trying to find the confidence that he needs to develop, even though that the manager have proven that he's got everything that he's going to show. But when on the games, I still missing the player from Benfica, where he was the main man, when every single ball was on him, and now he needs to find that rhythm. He couldn't find it just in the past, maybe month and a half at Liverpool. You could see some movement, some finishing from his Benfica side. But not yet we've seen the player that I think he can become, because he's got everything. He's got the pace, he's got the ability, he's got the strength. He's a big lad, so he can go very good in the air, and he can be a very good finisher. But definitely when you are in front of the goal, you need that confidence to try to put it in. And we've seen that with, for example, Luis Suarez for many years. In the moment that he's on fire in front of the goal, you know he's going to score 30 goals during the season. That's what we need from this Darwin Núñez kid. Definitely, I was expecting a little bit more from the team, but your guys have been talking about creativity. This is a team that he doesn't have any player who can change the world. And we've seen Valverde trying to his luck from half of the pitch. Fantastic shot, because he's got an amazing strike. But you don't have a player who can dribble 2 players and score a goal. You don't have it. You don't have a player who can make a dribbling like Tadic we've seen today. 2 players, and then I put, without looking, a ball in between the lines to make the goal. Or we've seen also Son in the other game trying to make the run, arrive, have the composure to stop and put the ball in between the legs of a player and set it up. So that's what is missing in this team. A lot of battle, a lot of legs, a lot of height, a lot of run, but at the end, you don't have that creativity up front. And you need one or two to try to go far in this competition. They don't have any.
Yeah, I think this World Cup disaster and failure was down to the hands of not just the players, but Diego Alonso. And rumor has it Alonso stepping down as manager. We'll have that confirmed to you whenever we get proper confirmation. But when you have Diego Godin, 3 players to the old heads for this Uruguay team, Diego Godin, Luis Suarez, Edison Cavani, they've been part of the mainstay of this team for the last couple World Cups. But when you have Diego Godin, who is not the same Godin as he was with Atletico Madrid, Lucho, you've seen him thrive in La Liga for the last decade, but he is not that guy anymore. Why not give this team, why not give ownership to the likes of Jimenez, who's at the Atleti, who I think is a proper defender, the likes of Coates, who's having a good season in the Champions League that we get to watch on Paramount Plus week in and week out, match day in, match day out with Sporting Lisbon. He's also a captain. These are players who are ready to thrive. I don't think Uruguay, the future is not as bleak as this tournament might suspect. You still have Darwin Nunez, who is going to get better with more matches and experiences. You still have one of the best midfielders in Fede Valverde, and Bentancur, I think he was a big miss. From the Ghanaian side, to sum it up, PKs and shining moments, you have to take him. The ghost and the nightmare of 2010, Andre Ayew, he will not be allowed in Accra for the next 2 years. I promise you, I'm from Africa. I know how this works. Stay in London, bruv. Stay in London, because you just let your country down massively. And we're going to turn our attention now. Eric, I know you've been just teeming to talk about this match. Your very own Portugal, Eric Krakauer of the Fighting Krakauers of Portugal. Take me through this game. Portugal, South Korea. I'm going to give you the headlines. Portugal 1, South Korea 2. How is that possible?
Oh man, I did want to say something about Darwin Nunez, but I know we don't have time, so I'm gonna talk about Portugal. Look, I think that we saw exactly what we expected to see against South Korea. South Korea is chasing the game; they're chasing the result. Portugal didn't want to play any of the midfielders who were at risk of getting yellow carded and missing the round of 16. Only Neves was the only player who had a yellow card who played, and he's not one guy who's going to get himself into trouble. He didn't go into any tackles. But in terms of sort of the modus operandi of this game, we saw the same Portugal. A lot of possession, but difficulty penetrating lines, difficulty getting the ball behind the last line. The goal, the Portugal happened.
Well, Eric, that happy? Got him paused a bit. I think what Eric was trying to hit on, and Nigel, I'll jump to you next. What Eric was trying to hit on. Oh, he's back.
Deserved the win. Did you guys lose me?
Yeah, a little bit. Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
Man, I made so many good points.
No, we'll stop. Nigel,
Falling God said pipe down. Yeah, Eric. Falling God said pipe down on Portugal, all right?
I'm going to limit
Pipe
to
down
this.
on Portugal.
They didn't play well. Nigel, the floor is yours.
There we go. That's what we were looking for.
No, I mean, listen, I think Portugal are a good side. I really do think they're a good side. Like Eric said, and he's 100% right. When you just talk about tactics and analyzing them, it's that willingness to run in behind. So many of these teams now, like you said, so many players are so programmed now with systems and formations and styles. There's not really that many that want to run in behind. They all want the ball to feet and do it. I think still, for me, that the main man that I believe is Portugal's new star that should be really put in that front line is Rafael Leao.
Yeah.
When he gets the ball at his feet and he beats players, isolate him in one-on-one situations. It's not a normal, natural talent that he has. But when you don't use him in the right way, when you don't encourage him, and I'm sure probably Lucho can add to this, when you've played with players where they're just that good, when they get balls in one-on-one situations, you give them a basic foundation of what you want from them in these areas, and everyone else has to do runs or movements because they know what's going to happen. Rafael Leao, for me, is the one. I think there's still this whole, whether it's a honeymoon or whether it's a 21-year-old anniversary, this whole Ronaldo thing being in there and everything has to be Ronaldo-centric, everything about Ronaldo. It's like there's a time when you have to move on. I think for me, that's what I see in Portugal. I feel that he's the one that needs to step up. He's the real future of Portuguese football, the next superstar that needs to get a lot more attention. with the ability he has to run with the ball and also to make great runs in behind. With Bruno Fernandes in there steering the ship, you've got another player that's more than capable to unlock defense doors with his passing ability and his vision. So I think for me, it's going to be a very tricky game for Portugal. But if they don't use the players that they've got in the right manner, they will struggle.
Yeah, well, definitely. For me today, it was, when Portugal knows that they are going through, the players are in. So at the end, the mindset is different. Of course, you want to show off to the player, to the team, to the manager, sorry, that you want to play, maybe or that he can count on you. But at the end, some of the players are thinking about what is coming next. That is, you cannot control that. It's in your head because you don't want to get injured. You don't want to be sent off. So at the end, you are playing against a team that is that, and if they don't win, they're gonna be out. So the mindset is totally different, and they knew the plan that Korea had. It was fantastic. We are gonna be very tight organized. We're gonna have one or two, and then maybe if we can score those goals, they got quality. And let's don't forget that. I mean, Vitinha, I enjoy very much watching him play. A player who, when at that time PSG paid 40 million for this kid from Porto, and today showed that he can manage Portugal in the middle of the park. He's got the ability, he's got the vision, he's got the talent to do it. And I'm not. I mean, I was concerned when he arrived to Paris Saint-Germain, but now I can see there is a massive future for Portugal in the coming years. And of course, Rafael Leao is a player who we all love to watch him play. But it's exactly what you're saying, Nigel. If you have a player like this, that he can break lines, so he can beat players, you have to isolate it. You have to not have one player near him. Allow the players in the middle to bring the ball in one pass to him and let him do the job. Just wait for the ball to arrive inside the box because he's going to do the job. The strength, the speed, the power that he's got is just fantastic. With that 1v1, it's like Mbappe. If you're going to have Mbappe and you're going to surround him by players, there is no chance that he can do anything. Just isolating him in one side and let him do the job. But of course, you got João Mario, you go Cristiano Ronaldo, you go players who won the ball. So that's something that Portugal needs to continue working on. But I still think that at the end, it was more because of the desire of the other team, not because Portugal did play very bad.
One player who I think really impressed me in this game, Horta gets the goal, but Diego Dalot, he's been on fire for Portugal. And Eric, you can back this up. A goal or an assist in 4 straight games for the national team. At what point does he become more of a consistent contributor? Shout out to Pepe as well. In that first half, not the second half, Pepe with a blinder of a pass, diagonal balls, spraying it back, rolling back the years, as we saw when he used to have hair. Yes, he used to have hair. We can look at Google to see the photos. For the other side, South Korea, we got to give the winners. This is the house of champions, not the house of losers. The house of champions, man. We got to give credit to the team that won. Yeonmin Sung finally arrives at this World Cup, and it was a crucial moment. Lucho, you've been a guy who delivered on the world's biggest stage in the Champions League. What did you see in that moment that really helped South Korea get to the knockout round?
You went into my head because right now I'm just watching again that play from Son. I mean, we need to think about that. It's 90th minute. I mean, these guys have been running the whole game, and that intensity from Son, that desire from Son to get the ball, start dribbling the ball, arrive to outside the box. When he's there, he realized that he's got 3 players around him. Stops. Holds for a second, wait for the other teammate to arrive after 60 meters. See the pass in the right moment, the perfect touch, no harder, no softer, the perfect touch in between the legs to put the ball right in the place to the finish. I mean, trust me, is one of the most difficult things that you can have because you're tired, because you are unbalanced, because you arrive and you don't see anything, because you need to breathe at that moment. That's it's been really, really unbelievable. That pass is just outstanding. I mean, from different world to have the ability, the composure to do it. The finish is just great, of course, but the ability to arrive that in the 90th minute, trust me, very, very difficult to do. Just coming from an outstanding player.
I don't think there's much I need to add to that. You know, watch him a lot in the Premier League, and I think he's just absolutely sensational. You'd have to say he's one of the top bracket players in the Premier League week in, week out. You know, even when he went through a difficult stage of not scoring goals, it was nothing that you'd ever say, oh, I'm worried about him, or he's lost it, or he's not the same player anymore. No, it's always been there for him. And I think that he's a great ambassador for football as well. And what he's doing is going to inspire such a generation from South Korea. we talked about it as well. South Korea and Japan are nations that maybe a lot of us don't know so much about, but they always produce sensational players, technically gifted, athletically gifted, and they've got great football intelligence. And I see that region of nations just only going to get better and better and stronger and better with the players that they continue to produce. But like Lucho said there, it's not just an average player that can do that. It's the top 1%. Slowing yourself down with everything going on. You're tired, you're fatigued, you're mentally drained, but to still have that extra bit of desire and that calmness to be able to articulate yourself in this footballing sense, to take that opportunity and do it, it's great.
Can I just add something just real quick? A player that I think deserves a lot of praise for South Korea is Hwang In-bum, number 6 in the center midfield. For me, has been one of the most poised midfielders in this competition, and his engine just lasts forever. And a little thing to add to that, also, Paulo Bento is the coach of the Korean national team. This is a guy who was in charge of Portugal for a long time. He knows how Portugal ticks, and he had the perfect game plan against them as well.
Oh, Eric, I think you might be previewing who takes over for Fernando Santos in the future. Just putting it out there, your bookies. No, I thought you were going to say Cho as well. He had the glancing header that set up the first goal for the Koreans. Congratulations to you, South Korea. And Mr. reo-coker, only if you talk about the predictions next, but go on.
No, just make sure you keep putting out Lucho's name out there for managers' jobs as well. All right? I'll be Lucho's third assistant. So just keep throwing Lucho's name out there. You never know, mate.
You never know.
Lucho, Uruguay manager. Hey, Lucho, I can help you there, mate. I'll be there.
I tell you what, from your lips to the board and federation's ears, we love Luis Garcia as well as all of you, which brings us to this. Knockout stage is here starting tomorrow. We'll preview the first one, the big one, my USMNT, your USMNT, everyone's USMNT, US men's national team against the Netherlands, Argentina against the Aussies. We'll start with USMNT. What's your prediction in that game? Lucho, coming to you first.
I'm excited. I don't know what to say. I don't know. We are talking about the US men's national team. That's exciting. Listen.
Yeah.
If we were thinking, I had the US men's national team to go through, and if you want to play against the Netherlands at some point, is right now. A team that is with a lot of doubts, a team that is very open, a team that is not finding themselves that what they were in the previous months, and a team that at the moment is vulnerable. And if you bring intensity onto the game, and you know that this US men's national team is go, you can hurt them. I'm not saying that you can win 5-0. I'm not saying that because we all know that maybe the US doesn't have that ability to score so many goals. They struggle to find the net. But definitely you got players. Of course, we all have in our mind Pulisic. We got McKinney. You go right up front. You go Sargent. So you got players that you know that you can capitalize. But definitely, if you have to be very organized. And the moment that you open a little bit, in the moment you allow the Netherlands to believe and to keep the ball for a long time, that's the way that they like. You know that Frankie, you in the middle of the park is the player. You have to have always an eye on him. I think you can give them so much trouble. And then anything can happen. We are talking about the Netherlands, a team that is one of the favorites in the beginning of the competition, one of the dark horses. So, yeah, I can give a credit. I didn't say a result because I can't. I want to put my heart on the US men's national team.
Come on,
but I asked that. Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to pass that love. Let's go for it. Yeah. Let's go for it. Let's say the US makes it and go through.
Man, Jimmy Conrad.
Don't let Mike force you.
Mr. reo-coker, what about you?
Don't let Mike force you. Don't let Mike force you, Lucho. Eric, you can have the floor. The floor is yours, Eric.
Well, I think that when it comes to matchups, I think this is a really good matchup for the U.S. national team. This is a team that has, since Greg Berhalter has taken charge, has had trouble breaking down teams when they have a lot of possession, when the U.S. has a lot of possession. And I think this is going to be more of a transition game for the U.S. with the Netherlands wanting to control the ball, particularly the pace. One of the things that is being reported is that some of the players are sick with the flu or with the cold, and that includes Frankie de Jong, which could be very detrimental to that team. But I honestly think that the sort of run that the U.S. is in, the confidence that they are playing with, I think they have a very good chance of beating this Dutch national team, who I don't think under Louis van Gaal yet, although they're playing some of the best football they've played in years, although that's not that hard to do considering that they haven't qualified for major tournaments, I still don't think that their identity is fully established. I still think that there are weaknesses for this team, particularly behind the wing backs. So I would put my money on the U.S. I am worried about Josh Sargent not being available. I thought he was outstanding against Iran, running into a lot of spaces to open up other spaces for other players. I think he's the U.S. number 9 of the future. So let's see who plays in his role and if that person does as well.
Yeah, Nigel, you got anything on the U.S.?
I'm
I know
gonna
you're
be
rooting
quick.
for him.
Well, the producer wants me to be quick because it's USA and time's running out. If USA want to give themselves a great chance of winning this game, they have to high press the Dutch. They have to be aggressive. We've seen how vulnerable the Dutch look when they try and play out the back. They still that lack of confidence within themselves as players and really kind of understanding. USA have to be aggressive in this game to give themselves a great chance. If they sit back and show the Dutch too much respect, I think the Dutch's quality will come through in the end. And also, they do have a lot more players who are a lot more clinical, more dangerous in the final third, more goal threats than what we've seen from the US. We've seen it that creativity and goal scoring is a bit of a problem. They've had a fantastic World Cup to get this far, but if they really want to have a chance, they've got to be aggressive straight from the off and make the Dutch uncomfortable. It's not about sitting back. It's being aggressive, front foot football, and going hard. You want a result, right?
Yeah,
I'm gonna be like,
what's your result?
Oh, my result. It's going to be a very tight game. I'm going to go 2-1 USA.
Oh my gosh, I think I've seen
when I back them,
everything. I think I've seen.
They're going to lose now. I back them. They're going to lose now. Every time I got a good to them, they've won. So now I'm backing them. They're probably going to lose.
No, this is where your kiss of death in the predictions table turns around. I think USA wins. I think it's going to be close. I'm saying 1-1. Penalty kicks, folks. This USMNT is going to be coming of age. 1-1 penalty kicks. Don't think the Dutch have it. And in the final matchup,
Mike. No more drama.
No, you can't. In the final matchup of the day, it's Argentina versus Australia. Very quick on this, because I know our producer Des Norris will have a kind word with me if we don't. Very quick on this, Lucho. What's your prediction? Argentina, Australia.
This is the easy one. So I'm gonna go with Argentina to get the job done. I think that the Aussies are gonna put a good fight. We all know that they've done it. There is a fantastic reward for them to be here. But I think that Argentina has got too much. And if they play the same way that they play in the previous game, I think with that intensity, with that passion, I think they will go through easily.
Mr. Krakauer, what are your thoughts? Argentina, Australia?
Well, look, I think Argentina is going to win, but I'll tell you one thing. You're not going to see the Australians do what the Polish and the Mexicans did, which was go into a game against Argentina with their tails in between their legs. They're actually going to try. They won't have much of the ball, but they're going to be aggressive. And when they play in the counterattack, I think they will commit numbers forward. So it's going to make for a good game, entertainment-wise, but Argentina should see Australia off fairly easily.
Edge?
Yeah, Argentina have too much quality for Australia. I think Australia are going to be very hard to beat, very resilient, going to be determined, show a lot of grit, show a lot of culture behind them in the sense of being Australian. But Argentina have too much quality. And the other thing I've seen about Argentina is they're starting to get into the form.
Yeah,
what best time to get into your form in tournament football when you're in the knockout stages? Because we're seeing this Argentina grow from strength to strength. And this is the time when you need to be in your best form. So I think that Argentina get the job done.
And that's the point. And I agree with you so candidly and wholeheartedly. They're trending in the right direction. I go 3-0 Argentina. They got too much sauce. There's a bit of bite about them, and they will not fall to falling asleep against Australia. Well, this has been House of Champions. Thank you, Lucho, Nigel from Jamaica, and Eric Krakauer. I think you're in Charlotte, but thank you for your contributions, and thank you all for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, see you next time.